Good evening, church. Okay, may I request to stand and open our King James Bible? We kindly open our Bible in the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 35 to 38. Let's read together. Ready? And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, preaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitude, he was moved with compassion of them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then said he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. Allow me to read again the verse 36. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Let's go to the Lord's Prayer. Lord God in heaven, our gracious and merciful God, thank you once again for this day, for giving us or providing us your message. Lord God, we pray that tonight that your Holy Spirit will guide us, and only your name will be magnified. And guide me, Lord God, as you become the mouthpiece of your words, and only your words will be magnified today. And all these things we ask you to use as special, Lord. Amen. Okay, good evening, church again. Okay, we are now in the second Sunday of the month of June. And as we all know that our theme for this month is constrained in the love of Christ to witnessing. Okay, last Vesper Service last week, we heard there's a four must preached by Brother Ian, how to conquer our fear in witnessing. We heard that first, you must be spirit-filled, right? Second, you must be prayerful. Third, you must trust God's presence. And fourth, you must prepare and share. But tonight we have we are studying about three musts also. And as we read in our main text from the scripture of Matthew chapter 9, we find there is a potential for a great harvest, right? There's a potential. This teaching or word says by the Lord Jesus Christ last 2,000 years ago. And I think it is also applicable to it, right? It is always applicable to our present life. But the problem is, even there's a great harvest, there is also a great problem. What's that? There's a few laborers wanted to work for the Lord of harvest. Right? Konti lang po talaga ang mga tao or mga mananampalataya ang mga nagtatrabaho sa Diyos. Right? Most of the Christians right now, we are complacent, relaxed. Dahil alam na natin na we are heaven-bound, hell, hindi na tayo mapupunta sa langit, ay sa inferno, kaya most of the Christians are relaxed. Kaya nga yung word ng Panginoon last 2,000 years ago, napaka-applicable pa rin ngayon. And it always reminds us, believers, na kailangan po tayo magtrabaho sa Diyos. Magtrabaho po sa upasan ng Panginoon. This statement of the Lord's, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few, was made over 2,000 years ago. When we examine the wickedness of the world in which we live, when we see the evil things that surround us, it's clear there is a great work to be done. Okay. Mga kapatid, meron pong napakalaking dapat gawin bilang Kristiyano. Hindi lang po tayo dapat active sa pag-attend po ng church. Hindi lang po dapat tayo active sa ating mga fellowship. Anumang fellowship, ladies fellowship, men's fellowship, or any other fellowship. But the most important thing is maging active po tayo dun po sa common fellowship na binigay po ng Panginoon sa atin. Ano po yun? It's to witness. Amen. Kasi kung hindi po tayo mag-witness, baka hindi po tayo lalago, baka hindi na po tayo, hindi po may reach yung mga tao na hindi pa po nakakakilala realize that we are living in the last days, there are some things that, as the body of Christ, we need to do. We cannot sit around passively in church and burn our chairs, thinking that Jesus will come back for his bride that has been complacent and stagnant. We are also aware that there are only a handful of believers willing to roll out their sleeves and labor in the fields. Di ba? Konti lang po. Napakakonti lang po. And I think it's a challenge tonight for all of us na kung pwede lahat po tayo gumawa, magtrabaho po para sa Panginoon. Let's face the fact. Tonight, how many of us consider ourselves as laborers? Ilan po sa atin na masasabi natin sa ating sarili, niligtas ako ng Panginoon, isa po ako sa mga laborer ng Diyos. And try to meditate if we are doing our job, our duty as laborer in the fields of our God. These the questions also to encourage me and encourage you as well. How many souls that you already invite or brought to our church? Ilang taon na po ba tayong Kristiyano? 1 year? 2 years? 5 years? 10 years? Dekada na? Ilang kaluluwa na po ba yung naidala natin sa simbahan ng Panginoon? Sa bahay ng panambahan ng Panginoon? How many souls? I really appreciate and admire Brother Angel. I think everybody knows Brother Angel, right? For his passion to bring visitors in our church. Every week, almost makikita po natin si Brother Angel na lagi po siya may bisita. Tayo po kaya? Ilang years na po tayo dito sa Berean Baptist Church. And also, I really appreciate our African brothers. That almost every week we have African visitors, right? Kung makikita mo, kung siguro may puntos, mas nakakapuntos po yung mga African brothers natin, diba? Na magdala po sa Panginoon, na magdala po ng Panginoon sa Panginoon. Second question, how many souls did you already share the good news or the gospel of salvation? Ilan na ho ba yung na-share nyo? Pagkatapos nyo pong nakamtan, o pagkatapos po natin nakamtan, yung gift ng Panginoon, which yung eternal life. Magmula mo ba nung na-save tayo hanggang ngayon, na-share nyo na ba yung salita ng Diyos? Especially sa ating pamilya, sa ating relatives, sa ating mahal na buhay, or even to our co-workers. Brethren, the time for us to labor for the Lord is not tomorrow, but today. But now, we must understand the times we are living in and the urgency of the lost soul. Okay, there's an urgency. It's like a tick-tock of the clock. That every second, there's a soul that throw in the lake of fire. So we must counter that. So if possible, that every second, we must bring souls to the Lord. Right? Jesus told his disciples in John chapter 4, verse 35, say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes, and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. Mga kapatid, sabi po ng Panginoon, lift our eyes. Tingnan po natin ating paligid. Ang dami po pwede natin harvest na. There's a lot of souls in our surrounding that we can able to harvest. Ang problema, nakikita na po natin yung pangangailangan para sa Panginoon, hindi pa rin po natin ginagawa. Sana po naging encouragement yung last preaching po ni Brad Ian. How to conquer our fear in witnessing. Okay, we have 3 points to be discussed as laborers. Okay, first point, as laborers, we must visualize. It is vitally important that we see the needs, right? Around us, and then we must meet those needs. Hindi lang po yung nakita natin yung pangangailangan, bagkus dapat tugunin natin yung pangangailangan. Ano po yung pangangailangan natin sa ating pananampalataya sa Diyos? Ay yung kaluluwa. There's greatest needs or a huge needs for us to work in the fields of the Lord. Dahil po, ang dami pong kaluluwa ko po, hindi po nakakakilala sa Panginoon. Isang example na lang po natin ng ating sarili. Diba? Because kaya po tayo nandito. Okay? Ligtas, heaven-bound, health-proof, dahil po mayroong ginamit na isang kaluluwa ang Panginoon na nagmahal po sa kanyang gawain. We must see what Jesus saw. He saw sheep without a shepherd. We must feel how Jesus felt. He had compassion on the multitude. We must do what Jesus did. He ministered to their needs. Evangelism does not have to be an organized church program. Hindi po kailangan na dapat organized church program ng evangelism. But evangelism must be intentional. We must see people for what they are as lost souls in need of Savior. We must comprehend the consequences of them dying without Jesus. They are destined for the lake of fire. Di ba? Ganun po yung destination natin dati. Di ba? We are destined for the lake of fire. And thank God because we received the Lord Jesus Christ in our heart and we believe. As promise of God, yung destination natin is sa langit. In the book of Psalms, chapter 9:17, sabi po dito, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that call them God. Ito po yung destination ng mga lost souls. And 2 Thessalonians 1:8-9, dealing out retribution to those who do not know God, and to those who do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus. This will pay the penalty of eternal destructions away from the presence of the Lord, and from the glory of His Father, of His power. We must realize that we have the information. Right? We must realize, brothers and sisters, we have the information, the complete information of salvation. This is information we need to share to others, especially first to our family. Ang tanong, na-share nyo na ba ang information or the gospel of the Lord sa ating pamilya? Or nahihiya ka sa nanay mo, o nahihiya ka sa tatay mo, baka mapagalitan ka. Diba? This information is very important because this is the Word of God, right? If this book are kept only in the drawer, in our drawer, I think the information is not important. But if this information inside of the Holy Book or the Word of God are being shared and not kept only on our drawer or in our staff room, right? This information must be important. The Bible is our complete information to share for them, to rescue from the consequences of dying without Jesus. As a church and laborers for the Lord of harvest, we must visualize three things. First, the mission field. Second, the message. And third, the ministry. Visualizing the mission field as stated in verse 35 in our main text. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages. Ang Panginoon po pumunta po sa mga villages and cities. When we think about mission field, many times, ito nga po yung nagpapabagal sa atin. Kasi when we think about a mission field, many times we think of some places in a far country. And we think this mission field only for the missionaries. Iniisip po natin na ang mission field para yan sa missionaries. Hindi para sa akin yan. Para yan sa mga manggagawa, sa mga tinalagang missionary ng Panginoon. There are countless opportunities of us to be involved in supporting our local and foreign missionaries. And thank God, BBC has the heart of this mission for the mission. But we cannot give just money and support the missions. Not only this, that's not only our obligations or our mission or our responsibility. But our responsibility is every now and then we think that we have to fulfill as a saved person, to fulfill our responsibility when it comes to mission field. Remember, brethren, wherever you go, kahit man po tayo saan pumunta, is a mission field. Amen? Kahit nga po makyat po kayo sa taas, it's a mission field. Because po meron pong lost souls sa taas. Na-share na po ba natin yung gospel sa kanila? lost people is the mission field. Hindi lang po yung mission field para sa missionary. Ang ibig po sabihin dito, hanggat po merong mga ligaw na kaluluwa, consider that as a mission field. And as a church and as individuals, we must visualize the mission field. We must look around and see the lost people everywhere we go, and we must see the devastating condemnation that awaits them if they die lost in their sins. And when we see the mission fields, pag nakita na po natin mission fields, then we must share the gospel. Pag kung meron na po tayo nakita na isang kaluluwa, especially yung mga co-workers natin, ka-roommate natin, we must share the gospel. We must share the message. Na-share na po ba ito sa mga ka-roommate nyo? Sa mga katrabaho nyo? The second need to visualize is the message or the gospel. In verse 35b, sabi po dito, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom. We find in the latter parts of this verse that Jesus healed sicknesses and diseases. For that very reason, many people followed Jesus. And there was always a crowd near him looking for a miracle. But the fact that Jesus preached the gospel of kingdom to them is much important. Preaching the gospel is much important than to heal the illnesses. We know that Jesus healed sicknesses. We made the blind see, the deaf to hear, the mute to speak, and the lame to walk. We even know that he raised people from dead. But those were only temporary fixes. One day, those who receive a miracle would still die and face eternity. Did you remember the 10 lepers? Right? The Lord Jesus Christ healed, right? These 10 lepers, but only one returned to the Lord. Even those who were raised from dead would one day die again. But through the preaching of the gospel, many receive a miracle that would last through eternity. Brothers and sisters, this is also important to us. Sometimes, or also a reminder to us. Sometimes, believers or us, we tend to pray to our loved ones. For example, there's somebody illness or mayroong sakit. We tend to pray for recovery. Right? We are sending prayer requests, recovery for this, recovery for this, recovery for the suffering of this illness. But we forget to pray that one day they will receive permanent healing, which is the illness of their souls. Yung po yung pinaka-importante. Hindi lang po yung gumaling po, physically ng ating kamag-anak or ating mga kakilala. So we must first pray na makakilala po sila sa Diyos. One good example, like what we heard last Sunday, about Brother Alex's testimony, right? Narinig niyo yung testimony ni Brother Alex, right? There is one lady who suffered from illness. And Brother Alex, instead of praying only for her to recover from her illness, what he did, he shared the gospel of the Lord. He shared the gospel of salvation. And he prayed about the patient's salvation. Okay, dapat ganun po yung maging set ng mind natin. Not only to pray for the recovery or a good health or a good wealth or a good status in life, but we need to pray them also that one day they will hear the gospel of salvation. It is a must of each believers to know how to share the message of God. In Matthew 11:5, the blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, and the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. It is a must to preach the gospel, brethren and sisters. In Romans 10:13, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Diba? Yun yung rules eh. Diba? For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. But in 14, tingnan niyo po to, how then shall they call him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? Sino po yun? Mga preacher na to. Tayo po yun. How somebody na masasalba sa tiyak na kapamakan kung walang preacher, kung wala po tayo, kung wala po isang mananampalataya na magsishare po ng salita ng Diyos sa kanila. Diba? Oo nga, sabi nga po ng Diyos, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Pero kung wala pong magsishare sa kanya ng salita ng Diyos, sa tingin mo ba magsisave ka? It is our duty and mandate as Christians to share the Word of God and to be a preacher. Tayo mga men, to be a pastor in our own house. There are people today who are looking for a miracle, right? A lot of people. Some are looking for a solution to their financial problems. Some are in desperate need of solution because of their marital problems. Okay, walay. Some are facing a terminal diagnosis and are looking for a solution to their health problems. Okay, people right now, they are looking for miracles for their own selves. Sa kanilang physical na buhay. Remember, brethren, our Lord Jesus Christ can solve each and every one of those issues. Walang doubt yun, di ba? Lahat ng problema natin, mapa-physical man yan, mapa-financial man yan, masasagot yan ng Panginoon. But there is no benefit being having a good health, a good wealth, a good life, and then dying and going to hell. Sabi nga po sa Mark 8:36, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Without the gospel, I don't know if you agree with me, without the gospel, there is no evangelism. Without the gospel, there is no mission work. Without the gospel, there is no help for those in the mission field. It is imperative or important that we share the gospel. In Romans 1:16, Paul said that the gospel of Christ is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth. The next we need to visualize is the ministry. Okay, first we visualize the mission field, we visualize the message, and the last is we visualize the ministry. In verse 35, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. Ministry involves more than just sharing. It involves serving. And Jesus Christ, our Lord, is the ultimate servant, right? In Mark 10:45, for even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom of many. The entire life of our Lord Jesus Christ was a life of service. Do you remember when the Lord Jesus Christ washed the feet of the apostles? This was job of a common slave. Yet Jesus humbled himself and served others. May we never look at the job in the ministry and think that this is below us. Service is vitally important in reaching of other purposes. Sabi po dito, serving others point people to Christ. Naniniwala ko ba kayo? That serving others points people to Christ. In Matthew 5:16, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Serving others makes them think, I wonder why he did that for me, or what makes her so different. Service is proof that we love God, and it helps draw others to Him and His church. We are never more like Christ than when we are serving others. Okay? In Philippians 2:5, sabi po dito, you must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. So, believers, we must have the same attitude what that Jesus Christ had. Though He was God, He did not think of equality with God as something to claim. 7. Instead, He gave up His divine privilege. He took the humble position of a slave and was born a human being. When He appeared in human form, He humbled Himself in obedience to God and died criminals, dead on a cross. Not only should we love them to Jesus, brothers and sisters, this was not only to love them for Jesus. But we must love them like Jesus. We must minister by meeting people's needs with love and humility in the Christ spirit. If we are going to, in Matthew 20:26, Jesus said, "Whosoever will be a great among you, let him be your minister." So as a believers, we must minister. And I believe one of the minister, the best ministry that we need to do is to witness, to testify about the gospel of God. And the second thing, as laborers, we must agonize. Second point. Jesus saw these multitudes and he was intensely moved. O, nakita po ng Panginoon yan na meron po talagang pangangailangan with sympathy and pity because of their conditions. Sana po, ganun po tayo. Magkaroon po tayo ng burden or desire or passion sa ating puso. Kung nakakita tayo ng mga tao na hindi pa talaga nasishare, huwag lang po tayo maging relax. Okay lang yan. Meron namang ibang magsishare yan. Okay lang yan. Bahala na si pastor magsishare yan. Or yung mga deacons. This was a multitude of people who were utterly neglected concerning the interest of their soul. There are literally billions in our world today about whom no one cares. No man cares. It is safe to say that millions live in this world with no one to pray for them. Tell them about Jesus or to live Christian witness before them. Sadly, there are many Christians who are saved, hell-proof, heaven-bound, etc., who do not care about the souls of others. Hope this type of Christian is not here. If you think this is you, brethren, tonight try to meditate and talk to the Lord to give you a heart with compassion and desire to reach out those lost souls. Sana po wala po dito yung sinasabi dito na may mga Kristiyano na ligtas, heaven-bound, sabi nga nila, pero they don't care about those souls, other souls. Kasi if you care about other souls, 100% yung pwedeng gawin mo sa buhay mo, ang agency ay mag-invite ka ng kaluluwa or mga bisita para dahil sa church. Kung meron po tayong concern sa mga kaluluwa, isi-share po natin sa salita ng Diyos. Ang problema, dekada ka na o 5 taon na tayo Kristiyano, kahit isang kaluluwa po, wala pa po kayo na-invite sa church. Masyado po tayo kampante, masyado na po tayo relax. Every one of us po, including me, meron po tayong obligasyon sa Diyos. Hindi po tayo niligtas ng Diyos para mapunta lang sa langit. Bakit pa kaya buhay pa po tayo ngayon after we receive the salvation, after we receive the eternal life? Because God, meron pa po siyang purpose sa atin to bring souls also to Him. Not to enjoy our fellowship, coffee fellowship, basketball fellowship, or any other fellowship. Okay, but to serve the Lord. Jesus saw 3 elements that caused him to move with compassion for the lost soul. Dun sa verse po natin, meron tayong nakita ang Panginoon. Jesus saw there are departure from God. Masyado na po silang napapalayo sa Panginoon. Second, Jesus saw they are corrupted in sin. And lastly, Jesus saw their destiny in hell. We have the same thought or iniisip sa mga taong nakakasalamuhan natin. Or we have the same idea na nakikita natin yung mga tao ay napapalayo sa Panginoon. Yung mga tao ay nakorap na sa kasalanan at yung mga tao ay destined na sa ano ba tawag ng mag-isip na ganun yung mangyayari sa mga tao o nangyayari ngayon sa mga tao. If none, try to, what's this? Try to see Jesus, how He moved with His compassion nung nakita niya yung destination ng tao. Brothers and sisters, it is not up to us to condemn those people. We must realize that we are once as those as they are now. Isa rin po tayo dati na ganito. It is time that we stop looking at the lost world as drunks, addicts, gays, adulterers, thieves. It is time that we see them as Jesus sees them. Oras na po sa atin para makita po natin mga tao ito kung paano po nakita ng Panginoong Kristo. Lost souls that need a Savior. The only way we ever see a harvest of souls if we come to a place of intense burdens to those lost souls. Kasi kung wala po tayong burden sa mga ligaw na kaluluwa, parang 100% hindi nyo po ma-share yung salita ng Diyos. Yung parang wala kayong compassion or desire na sa kanilang kaluluwa. And then lastly, as laborers, we must evangelize. Okay, first, as laborers, we must visualize. And then the second, as laborers, we must agonize. And then lastly, laborers, we must evangelize. Evangelism is defined as the spreading of gospel of Christ by public preaching or personal witness. It is not enough to see the need, brothers and sisters, nor it is not enough to pray for the lost. Jesus desired that each of us do the work of an evangelist. In Acts 1:8, but ye shall receive power after the Holy Ghost is come upon you, and ye shall be witness unto me both in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and unto uttermost part of the earth. In Matthew 28:19-20, in the most very familiar verse, the Great Commission. Sabi po ng Panginoon, go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. As a laborers, we must evangelize the word or the gospel, or we must share the gospel, because as we commanded by God. Okay? We are not sharing the gospel because this is the instruction of our elders or our pastors, because it is commanded by God. As a saved person, as a child of God, as the ambassador of Christ, we should go before, because this is the command of the Savior, and as a mandate to us. The word go of the Lord Jesus Christ are not suggestion, but rather a commandment. Failure to go is to failing to obey. The Lord Jesus Christ says, go ye therefore. It is our duty to preach, to teach, to testify, to witness, to evangelize the lost, because this is the command of our Lord Jesus Christ. And if you love the Lord Jesus Christ, we need to do His commandment. His commandment is not a burden as a Christian. It's not a burden to all of us. It's not a burden to us. But it is a privilege to serve the Lord. Because He gave us eternal life. He gave us the gift of salvation. So it is a privilege to serve the Lord, to bring souls to the Lord. Second point, as a laborers, we must evangelize because we are empowered by the Holy Spirit. In Ephesians 5:18, and be not drunk with wine wherein excess, but be filled with the Spirit. The Holy Spirit presence and empowerment in our life will enable you to live that life to which which Jesus has spoke in Matthew 28. In Luke 11:13, sabi po dito, if ye then being evil know how to give good gifts unto children, how much more shall your heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to them that ask Him? Remember the preaching of Brother Ian last week. We must be Spirit-filled. And also, if you remember the preaching of our pastor last Friday, how the Spirit filled our hearts. If our hearts filled with anger, with different things, so we must clear our hearts so that the Holy Spirit will be filled in our hearts. There's a our Lord Jesus Christ gave the command to witness, to testify, or to fulfill the Great Commission to us. And on that commandment, God promised also to us, He will not leave us. He gave us the Holy Spirit to give us the boldness, courage, and wisdom. God wants us to ask the Holy Spirit to work with us, to fill us and empower us to fulfill the commandment of the Lord. I believe we cannot able to fulfill what is the commandment of God if we did not ask the Holy Spirit to guide us. If we are using our own selves, I think we cannot serve the Lord. Going Bible study like what Brother Joseph did, if he is doing this thing according to his own self, I think he cannot do it. It's very tiring. Because the Holy Spirit is working with Brother Joseph and also other brethren who sharing the Word of God in Bible study. Besides, they are tired with their work because of the Word of the Holy Spirit. Not only because of they are healthy. No. Evangelism is a necessary work, right? In verse 7-8, then said he unto his disciples, the harvest truly plenteous. Jesus says to his disciples, look guys, there are plenty of people who need to hear the message. Brethren, there's a lot of plenty of people around us that they need the message. There are plenty of people who need to be served. The mission field is ripe and ready to harvest. Jesus wanted these men or us to know that there was a great work to be done. Not only evangelism is a necessary work, but this is the sad thing. Evangelism is a neglected work. Napapabayaan na po ang pagbibigay po ng salita ng Diyos. Sabi po sa verse 37, then said he unto his disciples, the harvest truly plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore the Lord of harvest that He will send forth laborers into His harvest. Kahit po ang Panginoon, sinabi po niyo, pag-pray mo na magkakaroon ng mga laborers. Brethren, we must always add in our prayers to give us boldness and desire to work in His field, to witness those souls. Not only praying to be successful or effective in our own ministry, like our ministry, as a workers, but make sure you must pray, or it is a must, to pray as believers, to give us boldness and the desire in our heart to share the Word of God. Ang problema po kasi, nakakalimutan na po natin yun. Evangelism is neglected. A lot of us now, we are enjoying and kampante na tayo sa ating sarili-sariling ministry. And we forgot our common ministry, which to witness and to share the Word of God. Just to make it clear that the harvest is ready in our verse. There were people who need to be reached. But he also declares that there was a great problem. There are few laborers to work in the fields, or there are laborers who neglected their works. There is a field and ready to harvest, but there are few who are willing to work. As followers of Christ, we have much work to do. Listen for this, brothers and sisters. As followers of Christ, of the Lord Jesus Christ, we have much work to do. Marami pa po tayong gagawin. But we have a little time to do it. Alam po natin, yung pagbabalik po ng Panginoon sa Kristo, malapit na. Hindi lang po siya matagal pero malapit na po siya. So, bilang mananampalataya po, napakatikli na po yung time natin para magtrabaho. We must give ourselves to do it now. Huwag na po natin antayin next year, next month, next day. The times demand urgent actions. Yung sitwasyon po natin ngayon, sitwasyon po ng mundo, sitwasyon po ng mga ligong na kaluluwa, demand an urgent action. Our conclusion po, do you see the potential harvest, brothers and sisters? At present time, do you see the potential harvest? Are you willing to do what it takes to work on the field? Will you see what Jesus saw? Will you feel what Jesus felt? Will you do what Jesus did? And lastly, may we as a church come together to visualize, agonize, and evangelize the lost.